All right. Another episode this week for Chainlink Sports Talk, and today I got Taylor Ringold. Taylor works for WFAN, the Fan, sports radio, very popular sports network. Previously worked for the Twins and the Giants, former college baseball player. So Taylor's been around the sports world for quite some time now, but landed a pretty good gig at the Fan, where from my knowledge, is pretty well positioned there to kind of grow in their company. But Taylor, it's really cool talking to you. I know we got to meet a few days ago, and I got connected, but really cool to be talking to you now.
Thanks for having me on, man. I mean, we connected through Clubhouse and a buddy. I mean, some guy I just met, Anthony, who I met through Clubhouse the other day.
Right.
And it's kind of cool how this app is starting to blow up a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, nice to meet you, and I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Clubhouse really is kind of a interesting new platform where
Oh,
and then like
absolutely.
a whole bunch of random people pop in, and like you almost like don't even know who you're gonna meet.
Yeah.
And you can get really lucky and I guess meet somebody and with the company that you're very interested in. So definitely really cool experience so far. And Taylor's also the host of a End of the Bench podcast, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I want to know first is, before the Fan, you worked for the
Mhm.
Twins and the Giants, and were you like an on-field reporter with them, or because I know that you were dealing with players in some respect and doing interviews with them?
So yeah, I mean, even before that, I was doing. I've always wanted to talk to players, right? Like I remember when I was in ninth grade, I had like a guidance counselor conversation, like, what do you want to do for a living? We're a little corny and shit. And then,
Yeah.
can I curse on this or what?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll
Fuck it.
be
Yeah, you
myself.
good.
Fuck it. Right. All right, cool. No, it was like the questions, like, what do you want to do for a living? And I said, you know, I realized I couldn't be the second baseman for the Yankees in, eighth and ninth grade. So I was like, what the second
Yep.
thing closest to it is to talk to players. So I said, I want to be like in the broadcasting space. And I did little interns here and there, internships. And then my first big job was an internship with the New York Giants in 2016 to 2017 NFL season, which was the last season the Giants are actually good. Like that was the last time they went to the playoffs when they lost to Green Bay in the first round.
Yep. That
But
was
I
when
was a
that was when they had the boat pick, right? Right
Oh, I
before
can
the
tell you
game, the week
great.
before.
Yeah, I can tell you a wild story about that. Like just being in the facility around that
Oh
was
yeah,
wild. If you remember to bring it up, I'll tell you the story. But
absolutely.
um, yeah, there was I was a production intern. I like that's not what I want to do for my career. I don't want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be setting up sets. I don't want to be the editing. Like I can do it, but I didn't like doing it. But I said to myself, I got to get in the business somehow. And just what I learned early on is that if you want to be in the business in sports broadcasting and sports media, it's very helpful to learn everything, right? Learn how things are put together, learn how
Right.
other people's jobs, to know that, their job is serious and their job matters. And I did production for them, and it was a great opportunity because I got to know it, like what goes on behind the scenes during a show that's on MSG, or how they do pregame and postgame shows for the Giants on game days. And it was a great experience. How it went down was my interview was something like, it doesn't even make any sense. So I would say
For your internship, you're talking about?
yeah. So the
Okay.
week before my interview for my internship with them, I I tore my labrum. I played college baseball, like you said before, and I got surgery that summer. And I had an interview with the Giants, I would say a week or two later.
After the
So I'm
surgery.
still feeling some crazy effects. I'm hurting a lot. But it's like my first time like out of the house and going somewhere, right? And
Right.
because I've been
Right.
very careful, and I was in so much pain the morning before, like a ridiculous amount of pain.
Right.
And the morning of, I no lie, I had to take my serious medication, like I was taking like Percocets, I think, to kind of like kill the pain.
I was just thinking,
And
like,
I,
you probably got like really drugged up, like in order to make it to that
oh
interview.
my God, dude, I didn't take those for a lot of the time. I took it for me like those 2 weeks, and then I started just take regular over the counter stuff. But
Right. Right.
I remember I was so nervous. I really wasn't myself, and I killed the interview. And then the whole process of training camp and the regular season was something that I think I'll look back on, and it was one of the better internship job opportunities because, like I said before, I got to learn everything. And I there was a thing we couldn't really talk to the players. The players had to talk to us because we weren't in the position to engage with the players.
Right.
You rub shoulders with Odell and rub shoulders with Eli. I remember like a situation where it's the lockers on the left side. If you come in the first door, I'm trying to remember, it was Zach Diassi, who was a captain long snapper for the Giants, and it was Odell and then Eli, their lockers together.
Right.
And I remember I was interviewed, like there was times where I could hold the mic and I would have the camera guy with me, but I never could say anything. My job was just to put the mic there as closest to Odell or Eli, whoever, with the rest of the media scrum around me. And I remember one time I was legit standing in Zach Diassi's locker, basically, and reaching over to get some quotes from Odell just to put my mic there. And I
Right.
remember as I was like walking out and trying like not to step on any of Diassi's stuff, Diassi took one of his shoes and threw it at me. It was hilarious. Of course, it was a joke, but it was like those little moments there, here and there. There was something like I'll never forget that. I remember I got
Right.
pranked one time as an intern. It was cool moments like that.
Right. Right. And then with the Twins, was that more of a official job, like, and
So
that you got through the internship?
Twins was really interesting. So what I've learned also in this business is like whenever there's an internship job, whatever it is, non-paid job, whatever it is, just take it because you can see what the level of the job can be, right? So this was a paid internship in Minnesota, but they didn't treat me like an intern. They even said on the first day, they said, look, you're quote unquote an intern, but you're more like a broadcast associate. You're because the quality of work, the pressure, the responsibility we're giving you is like a full-time job. So take it as that. And if you
Right.
can't handle it, we have a list of hundreds more that want it. That's what
Right.
they basically told me the first day.
Right.
And even not even the first day, during the interview process. And I was a broadcast intern and I actually applied for 4 positions with them. It was like production, social media, um, broadcast, and then there was another one I can always forget, but I got 3 out of the 4, and I flew to Minnesota to do the interviews. I did 3 interviews in 4 hours. I
Oh
was very
wow.
stressed out, and I don't toot my own horn that much, but I found out that all 3 of those job positions wanted me, so they kind of like talked it over. Then they asked me which one do I prefer the most, and it was broadcast because that is exactly what I want to do. And I
Yeah.
had the responsibilities to report, interview, and it was for Minnesota Twins radio. So I did a lot of audio editing where I learned Adobe Audition. I absolutely lied in my interview saying I know. They asked me, "Can you do audio editing in Adobe Audition?" I'm like, "Of course I know fucking Audition. I'm a pro at it."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Completely lied. Never had any experience in it. You kind of,
I feel like
you
that's
know,
something that's almost, I shouldn't say popular or common, but I feel like people do that, and then, like, maybe it even forces you to, like, master it even faster, right? Like, because I'm sure,
yeah,
like, did you go home and, like, watch, like, hours of YouTube videos and, like, look up, tutorials for this?
so I was very fortunate that you know, I got the job. I remember I got the job on Thanksgiving Eve in 2017, and I they gave me the job and they said, we're starting in like January 22nd." I said, "Okay." And if you know baseball, you know baseball, but the listeners, they know baseball doesn't start in January. It starts, middle of February, goes through March or the beginning of February, whatever it is.
Right.
And I had about 2 weeks to practice there. And I did watch a lot of YouTube videos. I did understand it. And it was funny. It was because, they ask you, like, do you know how to do it? And I said, yes, I know how to do it. They still gave us training for it, which I was like, thank
Thank
God, because
yeah,
I had
thank
no
God.
idea what the fuck I was doing. And it took a little while, it took about a month to really get like the basics down a little, and the interviewing stuff is definitely interesting because you go to school, I went to journalism school at Purchase College, and I interview normal people. You don't
Right.
go to school and learn how to interview athletes. It just kind of comes. Like if you go to Syracuse, you'll be able to interview athletes, right?
Yeah.
But like you don't. I'm trying to like say it the right way. It's just not normal to interview professional athletes. So it's like you got to get thrown in the fire and do it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did to me. Where I first couple weeks, there's a story with Lance Lynn. I don't like Lance Lynn. He doesn't like me. It was it was like a situation where I didn't know the ins and outs of like the etiquette when it comes to the starting
Party.
pitcher of that day.
Okay.
So you don't interview the starting pitcher in the beginning, which I knew that, right? You don't before the game, you don't talk to the starting pitcher of that game. Okay. After the game's over, they usually get a huge media scrum, right? TV, reporters, whatever, around the pitcher. And then usually what happens is 99% of the time, if it's a Fox affiliate or whatever it is, like Fox Sports Midwest or whatever,
Yeah.
they're the ones that start the interview first. Like if you watch the Yankees, like Meredith Marakovitz talks on yes, she asked the first three questions, and after that, everyone else goes. I didn't know that, and everybody else is waiting to interview Paul Molitor, who was the manager at the time.
Right.
I was like, Lance Lynn's by himself. I'm gonna go jump over and try to get some questions out of the way before everyone else does. This is like his third start, I think, or second start. He got absolutely shelled, horrible game. And I'm like, I'm gonna go over there and ask him. And then I run over. I'm like, hey Lance, you got a second? And he's like, wait for everyone else. Get the fuck away from me. And I was like, all right. And then I have like headphones like you. I had those in my ear with a battery pack next to me. It was like a receiver, so my producers I could hear my producers and talk to them through my mic,
Right.
telling them like what who I interviewed or whatever. And my executive producer heard that and was dying, like laughing, because they didn't tell me how this shit goes. You just kind of gotta
Right.
like learn, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
when I talk about like learning process and stuff like that, that was it was a great learning process to kind of go through stuff on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, that's something small where, as like a producer or as like upper management, you can't possibly like even think of that as like because like that's like a very specific thing. But yeah, absolutely, that's pretty funny that happened. But so then now you could even fast forward to the fan. What was that transition like from the Twins going over to a
Well,
WFAN?
yeah, it was a transition where like I got an interview. I actually made a relationship with WFAN and my boss now, David, um, when I was in college, because I think there was some sort of internship program that they had then disbanded the program for some reason.
Okay.
And I was talking to them throughout college, and I had a buddy of mine who played college ball at Purchase. He was a senior when I was a senior in high school, and I met him. And he started working at the fan for a while. And then I called him. I said, "Hey, I'm talking to so and so. Is there any way you can kind of like, talk me up a little bit?" And then 2 weeks later, I'm home. I get interviewed, get the job, but it's not what I want to do, but it's the name on the resume, right? That's what's important about what I've learned, and to other people that need to learn this, they want to be in this business, is that sometimes you gotta take what you can get,
Right.
right? And I was given this opportunity to be a tape operator, which is a fancy way of saying like an audio editor. And an audio editor is so there's like a bunch of screens right next to me, like TV screens, and I'm watching local games. I take either the radio or TV call of it, and it's like Adobe Audition stuff, but it's not on Audition, some other editing software, and I edit the highlight of the goal or the home run or the strikeout, touchdown, whatever, put it in a folder, and then the radio people, if it's on someone's show or an update anchor, will use the highlight. I've done that for almost, geez, 2.5 years now, but I've learned a lot through working at the fan. It's definitely like if the Twins called me tomorrow to come back and give me like a full-time job doing what I did before, but it's full time, whatever, I'm there. Not even hesitating because that was my favorite job to date, the Twins. It
Right.
was
And
so
like
much
that's what you
fun.
want to do because you're like directly with the players on the field and after the
Oh
game.
my God, man. It was, I mean, like to wake up, like the hours were insane. I worked 6 days a week, you get paid barely anything, and you get pissed about that. But then at the same time, you wake up, it's like, all right, I have these three people I have to talk to today. I'm talking to Byron Buxton today. Like I interviewed Mike Trout. That wasn't short. Like a lot of my interviews were kind of short, but I got to like shake his hand and say, "My name's Taylor Ringold. I work for Minnesota Twins Radio." And it's like, not nice to meet you. I'm Mike. And in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you're fucking Mike Trout. I know who you are." And
Yeah.
it's like these cool moments that like I made, and I have recordings of it forever. I want
Right.
to keep making those. And that's why I have this podcast, and that's why I'm like grinding to keep my career going. But
Right.
the fan is definitely a cool experience because it's, if you're from New York or you're just a sports fan in general, uh, if you don't listen to them, you know who they are.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, like, what is that like almost to rub, and we'll get to the podcast after this because that's the something I want to talk about. But what's it like to rub shoulders with guys like Trout, even Paul Molitor, as the manager of the Twins, he's a Hall of Famer,
Mhm.
players like Eli, like New York legends. Like, what is that
Sure.
like in terms of like approaching guys like that? Like, are some more personable than others, or do you have to pick and choose your battles? Like what's that like?
It's a very good question. Very good question. It's so cool to that I could say for the rest of my life that I interviewed Mike Trout. Right.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was 23. Not many 23-year-olds could get that opportunity to just have a 3-minute conversation with the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
And there's just like that story in particular. It talks about like like picking your battles, right? You said that how is it to pick your battles between some people and others? Like Lance Lynn, I figured out right away the guy is not a nice dude. He doesn't treat it wasn't just me. He was treating other reporters like crap, and I realized, okay, I got to pick my battles with him. I
Yeah.
think he got traded at the deadline to the Yankees that year. So I think I can say off the top of my head, I interviewed Lance Lynn. I would say one on one, like 3 times. Because my executive producers, my host, they're like, look, if you can get in a media scrum with other people, fine. But we know he's not a cool dude. But if you have to interview him, you have to. So okay, fine. But like with
Yeah.
Trout, I had to really work at it. One, because it was a goal of mine to interview him. Two, I pitched the story to my producers to do it. And it was a 3-game series. I pitched him early in the week before the series started. So it's like, all right, look, if you can interview his teammates talking about him, that's awesome. If you can't get Trout, it's fine. Now, for
Right.
me, I wasn't taking. I took that as like, they're gonna be okay without Trout. Personally, me, I'm like, fuck that. I want to interview him.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of days to get it because I had to ask their PR people, can I interview him? Because you just don't go out walk up the Trout.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
happen often. And I waited 2 days and I couldn't get him. I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it myself. And I did it. So it's like the satisfaction of doing that. And either if it's Buxton or Buxton was a really cool guy. He was only there for a short bit of time because he was hurt majority of the year. Like Mitch Garver is a really nice guy too, who's the catcher for the Twins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kyle Gibson was a cool dude, and I've also interviewed guys that just are don't have good personalities. I think maybe just because of the day, like Gleyber Torres just was not feeling it with me. We talked for legit like maybe a minute. I asked him 3 questions. It's very short with me. He must have
Yeah.
had a bad day or whatever. But that's like you got to kind of just roll with the punches.
Yeah. Right. And then so then now you have your podcast.
Mhm.
So what was kind of like your inspiration? So did you almost start that because of at the fan you weren't getting that like one-on-one connection with people? And then also like I am wildly impressed by your guests and I guess even like your network of people. You've had some really cool people on there. So I guess part A and then part B would be, how'd you I guess able to connect with all these individuals?
Sure. I'll go with the first question about the reasoning behind it. It was I had about a month left before I went home from Minnesota in 2018, and my buddy Liam, who was on my podcast for I would say like 90% of it up till really up until the pandemic,
Right.
um, was my he's my best friend still. He was my co-host and producer of the show. He hit me up. We actually did a radio show before I went to Minnesota. We stopped doing a radio show because I had to move. Um, and I was talking to him, said, "Hey, do you want to do like a podcast? Just trying to keep it going, maybe bring some of it back, and we can, do it on our own. We don't have to work for anybody. We can just do it on our own." And he's like, "Okay, cool." And I had a couple more buddies off and on come on. My friend Austin, my friend Billy, come off and on. And the reasoning was because I love talking about sports, and I just love interviewing people in general. I remember I had people that I've met, lined up for the first, I think, 4 episodes, maybe 5 episodes, and then we'd have a guest for a long time.
Right.
And the hardest thing about guests and booking them is that when you don't have a PR agency to help you, you have to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction of booking somebody on your own is a high that I've never experienced. And I started experiencing that when I started doing the podcast in 2018.
Right.
Yeah. And the guest question, a lot of it is sliding in DMs. A lot of it is
Oh yeah. No.
finding
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
it's finding their LinkedIn and finding their email. A lot of it is, a lot of it, but some people, I have a list of people I actually have to hit up today that I'm trying to book a guest to come on. A lot of it is just connections, and um, so yeah, it's a lot of networking. And Clubhouse has been great for me for 2 weeks already. I'm talking to somebody right now that I'm trying to, maybe get him as a guest or something like that. But um, yeah, it's for anybody that's trying to do a podcast, or if it's in sports or if it's anything else, it's like it's a grind, and you gotta, I'm still struggling with the fact that like, I don't have the largest audience that I want, but you gotta look at it as a grind, and it's a long process. Like Joe
Yeah.
Rogan didn't become Joe Rogan, the JRE podcast overnight. Took him a
Yeah.
long time. He's been
I
doing
mean,
it
I mean, he has over
12
1,000
years.
episodes. He's
Right.
got.
Almost 2,000. But look, I know
Yeah.
it's like that's like the goat of podcasting. But I'm saying is it's like there's even like people that are less popular than him. I can't even think of the names, but it's a grind. Like I take advice, this one piece of advice from Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, where it's Gary said, paraphrasing that, when you're starting putting out content, if it's on social, if it's on YouTube, if it's podcasting, whatever, you have to not look at the views, the likes, the comments. You just can't look at it, because if you start looking at that, that's going to be your drive, right? That's
Yeah.
your only drive to put content out.
Yeah. It's just to
It's
get the
because
results.
of that. Right. Now, he said, if paraphrasing again, he said, if your content is good, if it's good content, but it's just not getting the likes, it's going to eventually start catching people's eyes.
Yeah.
And it only takes one person. I think I saw on the Clubhouse the other day
Yeah. You
we were
did.
on. It takes. I've had this mantra, like I've had this attitude towards it. It only takes one person of some sort of power or stature or whatever to look at it and say,
I like this.
I like this.
Yeah.
And then that one person can change everything. Now you gotta put in the fucking work though.
Yeah.
You can't just let it come to you. I'm like 130 episodes deep, and you gotta just work at it.
Right. Right. And it's funny how you kind of say that it's about sliding in DMs and
Mhm.
connections, LinkedIn, all that stuff, which is exactly how I do it. Because this podcast, like I've talked to people who I've never thought I would even ever speak to. I've only seen them over social media or on TV or like whatever it might be. I was hoping you'd have a trick or whatever, but I guess it
No,
like it is
I
it
can.
is truly a grind, to just like be persistent, respectfully,
Yeah.
and then to just continuing to, go out and get people.
I guess I have I don't know if it's a trick, but it's what I've done for a long time now is like I have a portfolio, right? I have like my own website that has all of my shit. Everything I've done in my career is on there. I resume, all my social media, every interview I've done with the Twins or my popular ones the ones I want to put out there, and every of late, I guess the Zoom version of my podcast interviews, which was 2020 and now, they're all up there. I make
Right.
social clips. I make I edit, produce all the full videos, and when you have something to show people, right? You have all this visual stuff, you have all this evidence to show people that like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or this girl knows what he's doing. It
Right.
helps. And with the emailing or the LinkedIn stuff, when I find an email address, I mean, I saw a clip from Gary Vaynerchuk this morning or last night saying it doesn't hurt just to hit him up.
Yeah.
Like you might think he said, like you might, yeah, he said this guy in particular, 21 Savage. It's like you might think he might not answer, but like what's the hurt of just doing it?
Yeah. It would take
There's
you like a minute.
It'll take you a second to say, "Hey, you're a big inspiration to me. I love your music. Love to talk to you about this. Whatever." You never know. He might answer it, and
Yeah.
if he answers it, it could change a lot of things for you.
Oh, yeah. You
And
hit a
I have
jackpot.
right. And when I do these emails and stuff like that, like on linked on Instagram, some profiles they'll have their email there.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that to me now
Dude,
is
I
like
don't,
is like seeing gold.
dude, that's exactly when I see
Yeah.
that, I'm like, all right, step one, check. I got an email. And
Right.
once I see that, I have a legit template saved in my drafts in my email where it's a layout. I copy and paste the layout every single time. I just change the header saying like, or like good afternoon, so and so. And
Yeah.
then in the body of I can send you an example of what it looks like to maybe help you out. Um, and there's an example where I give them like a topic list of what we would talk about. And then I say where the interviews will be posted. And then I have another thing where it's like availability. Always work on your time, like your schedule. I'm always available,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which I'm not. I'm not
Yeah.
always available, but I work around it. If he or she is only available on Tuesday at 10 p.m., you bet your ass I'm going to be available for that. I'm going to
Yeah.
cancel plans, whatever it is. And then I have examples of my work, and then I have a link to my full portfolio. So
Right.
it's everything's there in the email with hyperlinks and everything. And that is one way where I catch people's eyes where it's like they don't have to like fucking look around for shit. They don't have to look around for my Instagram. They don't have to look around for anything. It's all there.
Right. Right.
So that's one way I've really had success with getting like Scott Hansen, or I got like Ashley Brewer from ESPN.
Right.
Ashley
Right.
Brewer, I slid into her, I just slid in her DMs, but I think I sent her an email. But like for Scott Hansen, I found the NFL Network's PR's email, and I just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna try it." I requested 4 other people, including Scott, and I got Scott. So I was like, "Check, I got one." So
Right.
it went really well. So then I'm actually gonna email that same PR person today and try to get someone else.
Right.
Doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, before I close this up, I
Mm.
meant to ask you this, and I just remembered, what was it like interviewing Craig Carton? Because I mean, for you, like working at the fan, I guess that's almost easier to get him because like you might see him
Sure.
around, or like you might even get clips or audio for him, like the way you were doing it before. But
Mhm.
what was that like? Talking with him. Now that he's back, coming off his gambling issues.
What's so interesting is, you know, I have I have a WFAN email. I get everyone's email addresses.
Yep.
I didn't even think about it. I legit went the route that I've always done, where if it's on social or if it's on LinkedIn. I noticed that I've been friends with him on LinkedIn for years now. Didn't notice it
Right.
before he came back to the fan. I DM'd him on LinkedIn, like not even knowing that I know I can get his email like that. because I work with the fan with him, right?
Yeah. It was just almost like instinct probably with you just to go the other route.
Right, exactly. And I did it. I messaged him. He got back to me right away. And it was funny because if you looked at my interviews where I was looking at it, or where I was listening to this, look, you can go back and look. My interviews are on average anywhere from like 35, 40 to maybe even longer, like an hour with guests.
Right.
I was extremely nervous for this one because one, it's someone I work with. Two, he didn't even know I worked there because when he came back, no one really goes in the office, and I would always work late nights, so I would never get to see him. So it was when we started, he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you even worked together." So it was a little
Right,
awkward,
right, right.
but it was extremely interesting. And he said right off the bat, and I scheduled it out because I wanted enough time where if it went an hour, we didn't have to rush, right? Because his show starts at 2. We did the interview at 12:15. So I gave it
Right.
enough time. He's like, all right, so 5 minutes, right? And I was like, oh my God, like 5 minutes? Are you nuts? I have pages of notes to just ask questions. Like I have when I do my interviews, I never have questions. Like might have 2 or 3 questions. I just have like details, like
Right.
some serious, like some like interesting tidbits about the person that people don't really ask.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, shit, I got to throw all this shit out because 5 minutes is going to give me nothing. I had
Yeah.
a process of what I was going to ask, and I got to pull it out to 25. I got to stretch
25
out the
minutes.
interview. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it was such a like rah rah, like let's fucking go moment, you know? And I
Right.
did ask about the gambling stuff because it'd be real silly if I didn't ask the most polarizing thing about him
Yeah.
was his
Yeah.
past. And I got to ask a couple questions about it. It was very short, but because I had to condense everything together. My 3-4 pages of notes condensed into 20 to 25 minutes,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting. And gave me some advice, he gave me some harsh advice, but it was advice that I need to hear. So, yeah, it was pretty dope.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. That I could see that being definitely a polarizing figure, and you know, yeah, hearing that's pretty almost like a smack in the face to start it off. But to
Oh,
close here,
Jesus. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
I'm sure to close it out, I know you've kind of thrown out a few tidbits along the way for people, who might be interested in going to sports broadcasting and all that stuff. But I guess what has been your biggest hardship you faced, or the biggest lesson you've learned, um, either in your internship or whatever it is that you could kind of, take away and say, to some people, or maybe even give some harsh advice to other people who want to get into the um, industry like you.
Great question. Yeah, man, this business is a grind. Like I just gave you some stories that are really cool. It sounds like I'm been 10 years in the business, 15 years. I'm 26. I just turned 26 last week. So like
Yeah.
I am grinding still. I still haven't hit my goal yet. And some people might say like, dude, you've done all this cool stuff. You're right. I've done a lot of cool shit, but I haven't hit my goal yet. My advice to anybody that's either in high school or college, or maybe thinking, after college, I want to start doing this. This business doesn't happen overnight. You need to grind every day. There's no breaks. It is stressful. It kills you mentally. It kills your wallet, right? You don't get paid a lot of money, but you have the satisfaction of doing some really cool stuff that people don't often do. That's my motivation to myself, saying, look, there's some days I don't want to do this anymore. Honestly, there's some
Yeah.
days where I'm so stressed, this business sucks. And then I think like, but Taylor, you just interviewed Scott Hansen, like the NFL Network, like, Red Zone host. Like that's
Yeah.
cool shit. And I know I can do better. I can get more. You just got to keep pushing. And like I said before, it only takes one yes. That's how my attitude's been through my whole career, my young career, is that all you need is one yes. That's it. And once that one yes, or like, do we want you? Dude, better fucking watch out. Cause I'm might sound corny, but I'm only gonna go up. I'm serious. I'm been positive and not cocky, but confident with myself the last couple of years, saying, look, you're putting all this work. Eventually, it's going to fucking pay off, but you
Right.
need to work hard. It like I am my sleep pattern's all fucked. I'm
Yeah.
always up late. I'm always editing. I'm always hitting people up, or I'm working at the fan late at night. I have friends that want to do the same thing, and they're in the same boat as me, and we're kind of like working together physically and emotionally because we know how hard this business is.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is how I'm feeling, but once you hit the job you want, it only gets harder, but you're having a lot more fun with it.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, I just say anybody that wants to do this or get into it, or continuing to do it, just you got to keep pushing, keep grinding, and people will notice.
Absolutely. I mean, that's all I got for you, Taylor. You've been really generous to your time. I know you're busy, like you're saying, you're always working, but I appreciate it. Definitely some cool
Absolutely, man.
stories, and glad we got to connect on this.
Dude, anytime, man. I'm always willing to help out. Love jumping on the pod, and yeah, let's get on Clubhouse again because I'm so down to do Clubhouse again.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll have to do that soon.
All right, cool, man. Thanks, man.
Thank you.